trade, then 2, then 10, then 100. Every single one perfect. According to the story, in just 14 days, an $800 account became $350 million, and that is when the government noticed. They thought they'd caught the greatest insider trader in American history, a man who somehow knew exactly what the market would do next. So they asked him one question: how?
Because I already knew what was going to happen. I'm from the year 2256.
Right, this is the story. An impossible trading streak, a government investigation, a man claiming he wasn't cheating, he was remembering. And if that sounds ridiculous, good, because the strangest thing about Andrew Carlssin isn't just what he supposedly did, it's that more than 20 years later, people are still asking whether any part of it could have been true. So before we call him a time traveller, a fraudster, or fiction, we need to open the file. In 2003, according to the legend, a man called Andrew Carlssin walked into the financial world and did something no one could explain. He wasn't famous, he wasn't a billionaire, he wasn't some Wall Street shark, you know, the ones with a glass office, a private jet and enough air gel to waterproof a seal. He was supposed to be ordinary, a quiet trader, a nobody, a kind of person the system barely notices until the numbers stop making sense. He started with $800, not millions, not a hedge fund, not a secret team of analysts, $800, and then he began to trade. At first, maybe it looked like luck. One good trade can happen, 10 good trades gets a bit suspicious, but hundreds, that doesn't look like luck anymore. That looks like information, and information is where governments start getting interested. Depending on which version of the legend you hear, the numbers change. Some say 126 perfect trades, others say 351. But the point is always the same. No losses, no bad calls, no missed turns, just win after win after win. And even if you treated every trade like a coin toss, hundreds of wins in a row isn't luck. That's the kind of number that makes calculators start sweating. And this is where the story becomes clever, because it doesn't ask you to understand stocks, it asks you to understand suspicion. And nobody walks into the market, makes impossible money, never loses once, and then gets arrested. That's already a story. But Andrew Carlssin didn't become famous because he made money. He became famous because of what he said next.
This is why humans shouldn't be allowed in our financial systems.
What are you on about? 85? You bought bloody Dogecoin because she says the little dog were cute? And it were my money.
Mate, it looks financially trustworthy.
You lost me a bloody fortune because Elon Musk tweeted about it.
But think of how rich you'd be if you didn't, mate.
God's sake, 85. This is why I don't let him anywhere near my banking apps anymore. Anyway, to investigators, there was one obvious explanation: insider trading. Someone was feeding him information. Merger news, corporate collapses, market shocks, things normal people weren't supposed to know until after the money had already moved. So when investigators demanded a source, he didn't give them a name, he didn't point to a company insider, he didn't confess to a scheme. He gave them something much worse, a year. According to the legend, Andrew Carlssin didn't panic, he didn't crack, he didn't beg for a deal. He sat in the interrogation room with the kind of calm that makes everyone else nervous. Because to the investigators, this looked simple. A trader makes impossible money. The trader must have a source. So the question wasn't really did he cheat, it was who helped him, who gave him the information, who told him what would happen before it happened. And that's where most insider trading stories go. Someone knows a merger is coming, someone hears a company is about to collapse, someone gets information early, uses it, makes a ton of money, then pretends they're just clever, which is adorable. Because if there's one thing criminals love, it's calling a crime a bloody strategy. But Carlson's alleged answer wasn't a company name, wasn't a banker, it wasn't a politician, it wasn't a secret source inside Wall Street. According to the story, he told the investigators he was from the future, the year 2256. He claimed he already knew which companies would rise, which ones fall, which markets would move, and which moments in history would make fortunes appear overnight. He wasn't predicting the market, he said he was just remembering it.
I made a mistake.
What are you on about?
Never tell them the year, mate. Basic protocol. Deny everything, act confused, blame a spreadsheet.
You thought about this a lot, haven't you, mate?
I've lived a complicated life, mate, you know that.
Bloody hell, you have indeed, mate. And this is where the story gets clever again, because Carlssin doesn't just claim he had future knowledge, he allegedly claims he came back too far. He didn't expect to attract attention. He thought a few profitable trades would be safe, but greed, or confidence, or whatever you want to call it, turned $800 into a number too large to ignore, and suddenly a man from 2256 had a very 2003 problem. Federal agents, locked room, and a file full of bloody questions. Now, to be clear, none of this is verified. We do not have confirmed interrogation footage. Believe me, if EWS Bodycam had it, I would be watching. I love that channel. According to the story, Carlssin offered to reveal future information in exchange for being released, not just stock tips, bigger things, future discoveries, historical events, information that would make his trading streak look tiny compared to what he claimed he knew. And that changes the tone, because if this was a lie, it was a bloody bold one. If it was a performance, it was dangerous. And if it was true, then the people in that room weren't questioning a criminal, they were sitting across from a man who already had seen their future. And this is why Andrew Carlssin works so well as a legend, because he gives you the fantasy first. According to the legend, Andrew Carlssin didn't stay locked up, and this is where the story takes another strange turn, because if it wasn't legit, then you'd expect the story to end there, an arrest, an interrogation, a ridiculous claim, case closed, boom. That isn't how it goes. Carlssin was supposedly released, and not because the case suddenly made sense, not because anyone proved he was innocent, not because the future explanation was accepted, but because, according to the legend, someone paid to get him out. A stranger, not a confirmed relative, not a named business partner, not someone with a clean public explanation, just an unidentified person with enough money, enough access, or enough interest to step into the middle of a story that should have been toxic. And that detail matters, not because we can prove it, we can't. There's no clear paper trail showing this happened exactly the way the story describes, but as a story beat, it changes everything. Up to this point, Carlssin could be dismissed as a liar, a con man, a fantasist, a lucky idiot who got greedy. But the second the story introduces someone else the question changes. Now it's not just who was Andrew Carlssin, it's who supposedly wanted him out. And that's why this part of the legend survives. It's because it gives the story a second shadow. Carlssin is no longer just the man in the room. Now there's someone outside the room, someone who heard about him, someone who had means to act, someone who, according to the story, decided this man was worth retrieving. No clean motive, no verified name, no confirmed relationship, just a stranger appearing at the exact right moment to pull the alleged time traveller back out of custody. This is where Andrew Carlssin becomes more than a stranger-esque story. After the bail was paid, he disappeared. Not a dramatic court ending, no press conference, no awkward interview where he explains why someone from the year 2256 apparently travelled back through time and immediately became a menace to Wall Street. Just silence. One moment he was the man investigators supposedly couldn't explain, the next, gone. And that changes everything because the time travel claim is weird, the trading streak is suspicious, the mysterious bail story, stranger, but vanishing afterwards. That gives the legend teeth, because if Andrew Carlssin was just lying, where the hell did he go? The police would have found him. Bit like D.B. Cooper, I suppose.
Making a mess, then leaving everyone else with the paperwork.
You sound experienced, mate.
Oh mate, I once caused a minor incident in 1987.
What kind of minor incident?
Let's just say some humans are still blaming the bloody stock market.
1987, you didn't cause bloody Black Monday, did you, mate?
Wasn't on purpose, mate. I mean, no comment, mate, no comment.
So, now we get to the uncomfortable part, the moment the legend has to meet the paper trail, because stories can survive on mystery, but investigations need records, names, dates, charges, something solid enough to stop the whole thing floating away. And with Andrew Carlssin, that's where the ground disappears. No confirmed SEC case, no verified FBI arrest, no clean court file proving the version that spread online, nothing strong enough to hold the weight of the claim. Then the likely source appears, the Weekly World News, a tabloid built on satire, fiction and headlines designed to make your brain briefly leave through the nearest fire exit. So yeah, case closed. Carlssin was probably not a real time traveller, not a trader who beat Wall Street, not a man who vanished after bail. Most likely it begins a satire, a fake story that escaped into the real world. But that's where it gets interesting, because proving a story that isn't true doesn't explain why people need it to be. The Weekly World News may have printed the spark, but the internet turned it into folklore. Forums repeated it, blogs reshaped it, videos retold it, numbers changed, details shifted, and eventually Andrew Carlssin stopped behaving like a joke and started behaving like a modern myth, a myth built from money, suspicion, government distrust, and one very dangerous question. And that question is, what if someone could know tomorrow? What if someone already has? What if the only reason we'd ever notice is because they got greedy? Could you fight the greed in his situation? It's a difficult one. Stay curious, my friends. Shane out.